always can hear me. I've got my AirPods in, a little bit of a different setup to the usual earbuds, but my phone's about to die, so I need to keep it on the charger cable. But otherwise, good evening. Obviously, I don't normally do live streams this late. It's currently 9:15 p.m. in the UK. But yes, I felt inspired to do this live stream because I just went out for a walk, which again, I don't normally do in the evening, but I've just been inside pretty much all day, just, you know, thinking of video ideas, prepping some scripts, yeah, thinking about, well, doing some more stuff for um, the upcoming immersion with my client. And then, yeah, had a catch up with one of my friends who was in the country briefly, but unfortunately didn't get a chance to link up with him. But we just had a catch up as well, so that was quite fun. We just did that on the phone for an hour or two. And then the Wi-Fi cut off in my apartment for the first time in years. I felt like I'd entered the Stone Age, which I guess shows how dependent we are on that modern day tech. But yeah, Wi-Fi was gone for like pretty much one third of the day in the morning. So yeah, that was a bit annoying, but still survived. All is well. Can't complain. Still grateful. But yeah, I was indoors all day, so I thought, you know what, let me just go outside. And it's not been raining today, and it is a pretty clear evening where I am. So yeah, just went outside, quick 30-minute walk, and yeah, clear sky. And so, I haven't done this in a while, but I was out, and then I realized, oh snap, I can actually see the entire sort of skyline, and yeah, clear skies. I could see the moon, see all the stars. And so it got me thinking a bit deeply about sort of everything that's been going on recently with Cold Approach, the channel, my dating life, etc. What I want to do for this year in terms of traveling and making more moves and pushing myself. And yeah, this one isn't scripted, so this is just gonna be a straight from the heart, straight from the soul type of live stream. I can barely even move my mouth because it was actually really cold, and I feel like my jaw is just kind of frozen up a little bit. Um, but either way, I'm just gonna do the best I can. But yeah, you see the title. I think I titled it "There's a whole world out there, but the old." I think I said, "There's a whole world out there, but your old self has to die to enjoy it." And I just came up with that title when I was literally at the top of the hill. So I went for the walk, and I live next to this really lovely park, and it's basically it's a park, but it's got like a hill, so you can walk to the top, and it's got this small little like um like artifact that's positioned at the top of the hill, and you can stand there and see the entire town that I live in, all the houses. You can see all the bigger buildings, and of course it's a clear view, clear sky this evening. So I was just looking at the stars, and I was just, I'm a little bit of a fan of like, what do you call it? Like cosmology, or they're just like, astronomy rather, not like star signs, not that stuff. Don't ask me for my star sign, please don't do that. But yeah, I'm a big fan of like the cosmos, the universe, space, and I get nerdy sometimes when I read or watch that kind of content. But yeah, every now and then, if I can do a nice walk in the evening, I can see the moon and the stars, and sometimes it always sort of kicks me up the arse and makes me think, oh shit, like, we live in this entire world with a massive universe that's infinitely expanding, and there's just so much out there that we can't even like logically comprehend because it's so far outside of our realm of like human limitation. Um, and so, I was standing there just looking at the stars, thinking, oh my God, like that star looks so small, but it's probably like billions of light years away. And what an incredible, in some sense, miracle, but just crazy reality that we live in, the fact that we're here living life. And yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, what, I guess the first thing that came to mind was like, you know, there's so much out there, right? Like, of course, most of us aren't going to get a rocket ship and go to the ends of the universe, but although maybe Elon Musk will help that dream come true. But despite that, there is still an entire world. So there is an entire universe, but there's also an entire world out there, right? And at least we can try and explore the world and um, do as much as we can to experience every aspect of life, depending on what you want, depending on what your desires are. And yeah, I was just thinking about it and I was getting a bit deep about it. And then I thought, you know, how do you get to explore it? Because there's so much out there, but it doesn't mean that everybody gets the chance to explore it. It doesn't mean that everybody gets the chance to, um, feel that I guess that expansiveness, or to feel, everything that the world has to offer. Some people just do the same thing, go through the same motions, and if that's what people want, then fine. But I imagine a lot of people don't want that. A lot of people have dreams. A lot of people have aspirations, and for whatever reason, something's holding them back. Because I've also been in that position, right? Um, and so I thought, what is required to get to a place where you can experience the, you know, the entirety of what life has to offer. And I think for most of us, it's just a case of taking risks and, you know, letting go of previous beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, um, and ultimately having to basically metaphorically kill your older self, right? Like get rid of that older version of yourself that's afraid or hesitant or is a people pleaser or is scared of what this person will say, what these people will think, or what happens if I fail? Like, what happens if I mess up? And it's like you have this dream, you have these aspirations, you have these goals and desires, but at the same time, there's always that weight that's pulling you back, that force. And there's just so much promise out there, right? Like, you look at the stars, you look at the sky, you look at the universe, you think, wow, it's incredible, right? And of course, like, that's not to say that life is all starry and rainbows and joy, because it's not. Like, there's a lot of suffering, a lot of tough times, but equally, I don't want to be too down, and I don't want to be too like negative, because a lot of the time, and I've done this before myself, where I'll use this sort of grandness and infiniteness of space and the universe, and I'll use that to suggest that, like, there's no real, like, let's say, proper meaning, right? Like, we're here and then all of a sudden we're gone and that's it, right? And so that's like the sort of floating rock mentality, which is a useful concept to use when you're overthinking or you're afraid of a certain outcome, right? Because ultimately, yeah, we're all gonna die. So who really, it doesn't really matter in that sense, because our time is limited anyway, and at some point it won't matter, like, literally. However, that being said, I think we can also go in the other direction and think, well, it's an infinite universe. There's so much opportunity out there, um, and in some sense, it's almost limitless. So doesn't that also mean that there's so much that we can enjoy and so much that we can go for, so much that we can achieve in a positive way? And and yeah, I think just the process of, like, going after whatever that is for you and releasing or removing the shackles, I think that is what we're all trying to do here in whatever domain we're talking about. Obviously, in my case with this channel, that's dating, but and self-confidence and social skills and owning the spotlight and those kind of aspects. But it could literally be anything, right? Even today, when the internet went off, I was on my laptop just cleaning up some folders, and I came across my Thailand montage, which is like a nice, like, 4 or 5 minute video that I curated, with a lot of the clips that I had when I went to Thailand last year in November. And I watched the entire thing again because I haven't really watched it recently. And I was just watching it thinking, damn, I had so much fun out there, and I learned so much and I grew so much, and it was such a pivotal experience. Like even going out to Thailand is, it's the main reason, or it's the reason why I eventually met the guy who I joined, let's say, so basically when I was out in Thailand, I met this guy on my way there, and he has a tech sales course. So he's we obviously got into touch on that trip, and then eventually I signed up and we work together now. And obviously he's helping me out with like sales and understanding that side of business. Um, and so that was like a chance encounter, right? A chance encounter that I had on my way to a country that I'd never been to, continent never been to. Um, and that was all because I took a risk, right? And then, of course, the trip itself, right? Just all the experiences I had, all the people I met, the content I got out there. Like, that was the first time I'd ever really filmed content. I was basically like a vlogger type of guy, and I never, imagined myself doing stuff like that. And yeah, the past like year has just been that kind of journey, right? Even going back before that, doing the immersion, going to Belgrade, hanging out with Ephraim, and yeah, just so much fun, amazing experiences, all because I just had to, like shed the previous version. And that's scary, because it's like that previous version is, afraid of embarrassment, afraid of judgment from these people, afraid of being ostracized, right? Being left by the pack, whether that's family, friends, co-workers, or being perceived in a negative way, or failing and have to, failing at something that you tried, and then people saying, "I told you so," like you should have done that. I told you you should have done that. What did we tell you, little Timmy? Like, don't touch this, don't go this, don't take that risk. Like that sort of ego hit where you sort of question everything. You're like, damn, maybe they were right. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe I shouldn't do this, or maybe I'm not cut out for this, or maybe this is weird, or maybe maybe girls don't like me. Maybe girls think I'm ugly. Maybe, and it's like all these cascading negative beliefs just like bombard your brain. And it's funny because there's that saying of we suffer more in imagination than we do in real life, but the reality is that your imagination is everything. Like your mind is everything. Like everything that you think is what you project onto the world, and reality is kind of what you make it out to be to some degree. Sure, it's just like the physical world, and I can touch this phone and I can touch my glasses, but at the same time, a lot of our experience of life is it all sort of starts from within, right? And so if there's all these limitations and fears and anxieties, then you're never going to get to unlock the world. And if you look at life like a video game, it's like where these characters and we're all interacting with one another, and there's all these levels that we can achieve, right? Of course we all have different starting points, but ultimately if we play our cards right, then I think the best way to play it is to just throw yourself into tough shit. Just do hard shit, speak off the cuff, do live streams in the evening. And yeah, I probably will come across as some deep pretentious guy who thinks he's inspirational, and if you think that, then cool, it is what it is, you know? Like, it's 9 p.m. I'm sure my flatmates can, he's right here in my room next to me. Maybe he can hear everything I'm saying. And if you can, then shout out to him. But, I could be self-conscious about talking about these topics. I could lower my voice. I could hide. I could cower. I could pretend as if I don't believe these things. But if you just speak from the heart, then you just speak from the heart, and it is what it is. And I think I think that's what we're trying to get to. I think that's the message I want to get across to people. Um, is just go for it. Just be yourself. Go for it. Don't hold back. Um, and yeah, just try to be the version of yourself that you never thought you could be. I think that's like a really cool um, frame to view life in, and to view the future in. Like try to be the version of yourself that like the 12-year-old version didn't believe was possible, right? And if you can do that to the best of your ability and get back up every time you fail or every time you make mistakes, then I think yeah, after that, then everything else just feels like light work. But yeah, I think you start to enjoy life more often at that point, because then it's like there's no limitation, right? I think a lot of us live with limitation. A lot of us um, we sort of like box ourselves into these expectations that this is how things go for someone like me, or this is what I should expect because this person said this, or you know, it's like I don't know. I just think that like there's no definitive truth. It's like we I think people make it seem as if there might be objective truths, and I'm guilty of this too. And we instead of thinking, okay, maybe that's true in this context, or maybe that was true at one point, but who's to say that it couldn't be different, right? Who's to say that I shouldn't like follow my desire because of XYZ? And and yeah, I just think it's worth the shot. I just think it's worth the shot. If there's one thing that I've learned from Cold Approach, amongst many things, it's um it's this idea that it's worth taking the shot. It's worth taking the shot. It's worth going against the odds. It's worth, just putting your balls on the line and saying, fuck it. I don't care what happens. It is what it is. Let me just go in, and if I die, I die. Because like, what's the worst that's gonna happen, right? And to be fair, I say that all the time. I say, what's the worst that's gonna happen? And the thing is, I get it because obviously the worst case scenario is that you die, and most of the stuff that we do, we're not gonna die, right? So if we're just going below that and we accept that that's very rare, then everything else below that, like I get it because that those ego hits, there is something there, like it's visceral. You really feel it, right? Whether it's when you let somebody down, or you disappoint someone, or you're embarrassed in front of people, or people take the piss out of you because you made a big mistake in public, or you fail at some and you fail at some adventure or objective that you had, and you put so much into it and then it fell flat at the end, and all this hope that you had just kind of goes away and disappears. And that can be, you can be left feeling very empty. You can be left feeling very just almost stupid, like you feel stupid. But at the same time, I think we have to just accept those risks, right? Accept those hits to the ego, and push forward anyway, because you know, let's say 9 times out of 10 you fail, but then like that one time you succeed. Like doesn't that make like don't those 9 failures lose all relevance once you get that one success? Let's even extrapolate it to 20, 30, 40, 50. Let's say you try something 49 times, and then on the 50th attempt, it clicks and it works. Like, was it worth it? It probably was worth it, right? I mean, it certainly was worth it if you tried 49 times. Like, fair play. Like, if you stuck at it for 49 attempts, then bravo to you, brother. But, do you see, do you see my point? Like, you know, yes, person A got success at attempt 5. Person B got success at attempt 10. Person C got a success at attempt 350, right? But ultimately, all three examples found a way, right? And I said that there's a whole world out there to explore, to appreciate, to get stuck into. And I think that entire journey of exploring the world, part of that is just going through those multiple attempts before you finally get the cookie, the success. And I know you've heard this before. You've probably heard this from a million people, a million different podcasters, a million different creators. And yeah, I mean, it's a message worth reiterating because it's a message that I think we need to carry with ourselves or remind ourselves of every single day, because I think that's what ultimately allows us to keep on moving forward despite pressure, despite judgment, despite failure, um, despite the fear of being homeless, despite there's a great poem by, oh man, you guys should go read this. There's a great poem by a guy called Charles Bukowski. I think he's like an American author or poet, and I forgot the name of the poem. Maybe I'll drop it in my I'll drop it after this live stream on my YouTube posts section. So I've got a couple of posts there. So if you want to see the poem, then yeah, I'll put it there. But it's a great poem. It's pretty short, but it's just like he's basically saying like if you're gonna do something, just go all in. You know, like if you're gonna do something, go all out. Like leave it all on the line. And he talks about how, you know, you might lose friends, you might lose your job, you might lose your house, you might lose your spouse, you might lose your girlfriend, you might lose your livelihood. You might have to starve for 4 days. Um, but he said he was kind of celebrating that. He was like, but that's where the magic is, right? And I think one of my favorite lines was, You'll be alone. You'll be alone in the night, but you'll burn with the fire with the gods or something like that. I'm butchering it. I'm not giving it justice. I'm butchering the poem. Sorry, Charles. I appreciate. I apologize. But it's a great poem. It's a beautiful poem, and yeah, I think it's a great representation of what I'm trying to say with this live stream, which is it's all out there, you know. So just go for it, you know. Let go of the old version of you, discard it, retire it, you know, place it to one side and grow into a new version. Because it's funny, like, you know, I obviously I've got so much stuff that I want to do this year, but I try to take time to really like take a step back and think about how far I've come with everything. Like even like, you know, doing YouTube, like that was one at one point something that I could have never thought of doing or dreamed of doing, because not because I didn't think I was capable, and not even because I didn't want to. Like actually, it's funny. I made a YouTube video years ago. Like I'm talking more than 10 years ago. Like I think I made a YouTube video when I was like 10 years old, and I remember I posted it. It was a video of me and my brother. So this was when I was like 10. So this would have been 2000 and when would that have been? 2007. So this is 2007, yeah, way back. Some of you watching might not have even been born. Wait, 2007 would have been what? 11, no, 21, no, 20 years ago? No. My God, my math is just shocking right now. Um, but yeah, no. So I was 10 years old and it was me and my brother, and we had like lightsabers because we were Star Wars fans. And obviously, like in Revenge of the Sith, the third Star Wars movie, there's a scene at the end when Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting each other, right? And they're fighting each other at that lava planet, and it's an intense scene, right? And it's one of the coolest like battle scenes ever, at least from my perspective, because I was young when I watched it. And so me and my brother decided, you know what, let's go out into the garden and let's get our plastic lightsabers out and let's film ourselves having a Jedi battle, right? And so me and him are like, I get the camera out and then I put it on the kitchen like seal, or the kitchen edge, and yeah, me and him are just like fighting in the evening after school when it's dark. You can probably barely see us fighting apart from the red glowing lightsaber versus the blue one or whatever. And yeah, me and him are like fighting. And then yeah, and then I remember posting that video on YouTube, and then I went to tell my parents because oh yeah, I had an account, so I was like, yeah, we just posted this video. It's called Lightsaber Duel, Ian versus Ivan or something. I'm sure I put my name out there on the internet, and of course at the time, like this is 2007. My parents are like obviously a different generation. Like to them, it's like any putting myself on the internet at the age of 10, and then my brother who's 3 years younger, so he's like 7. Like putting him on the internet is, they heard that and they were like, "Oh my God, Ian, what are you doing? Like, do you know who could be watching? Like, delete it." So they go on the family computer, and then they delete it, right? And so, but I think at that point I was like, "Oh, it'd be cool to post a YouTube video." This is in 2007. Like, this is way back. I'm sure YouTube was very new at that point. And so, like I probably had that desire to be a YouTuber, right? Or to do something with YouTube. And then I just had to suppress it because all of a sudden my parents, and again, like I get why they did it because it's like a different generation, but they just projected their fear onto me. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it must be a bad thing to post YouTube videos then. But imagine if they'd been like, oh, that's cool, and then they just let me keep that upload, and then I developed this like love for posting content, creating content. Who knows who I could have been at that point, right? Maybe I would have been some cool famous YouTuber, right? Who did Star Wars battle scenes or whatever, right? I mean, who knows, right? I'm not saying that that's the path I would have taken, but the point is, you know, there are all these different like inner desires and goals and ambitions that we have and that I had about a year ago that are actually coming true now, and it's crazy because yeah, like at some point it felt impossible. It just felt too scary. It felt like too big of a hurdle or an obstacle to overcome. So to now be at this position, looking back and thinking, damn, like all of this happened because I made that one decision. Um, it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling, and it's always a reminder that there's always going to be that decision upcoming, or what I guess a good way to say it would be those life-changing decisions, they never end, right? At one point it was cold approach. At one point it was booking an immersion with Ephraim. At one point it was starting the YouTube channel. At one point it was quitting my job to then go to Thailand, you know? At one point it was offering services for coaching. Um, at one point it was, and as I keep on developing, getting older, there will be more of those um, experiences and opportunities that will present themselves to me every day or every other week, and I'll have to make a decision. I'll have to go, okay, Ian, do I want to just stay here and not trust my gut, or not go for it, or not take the risk, or succumb to the perceived norm, or do I just want to go for it and just see what happens, and like take a risk? And if it doesn't work out, then I'll be okay. I'll back myself to pick myself back up and to survive and to keep pushing and to iterate or to find a solution. It's the same. It's literally the same process as cold approach. Literally the same. That's why I love cold approach so much. I don't love it because of the routines and all this stuff that old school PUA used to jam down people's throats. I don't care about it because of notch counts, lay counts, ratios. I don't give a fuck about that shit. Who gives a fuck about that shit? Nobody gives a fuck about that shit. Yeah? It's not about that. Like, obviously I got into it to improve my dating life. That I'm not gonna shit on. That's a great reason to get into it. That's why we all get into it, right? And thankfully I was able to do that. But once you get past that, once you've had those experiences, and don't get me wrong, I still want more of those experiences. That's why I'm gonna keep on traveling. That's why, I'm gonna keep on exploring the world. But aside from that, if we're talking about the deeper lessons here, the deeper game, the reason I love it so much is because it's a representation of life. It's like you have to go through it. You have to push yourself. Don't count yourself out, Don't reject yourself on the woman's behalf. If you take that outside of dating and we look at, let's say, business, or going for that job opportunity, or making that new friend, it's like, don't reject yourself before you've applied. Don't reject yourself before you introduce yourself to that potential friend. Why would you do that? Why would you count yourself out? Because you never know what's going to happen. And just like in cold approach, when you approach somebody who you think is quote unquote out of your league, and then it actually goes well, then you're like, oh wow, okay, so everything I just thought was just something in my head. It was in my imagination, right? It was literally just that. It was just a mental block that I had to overcome. Same thing goes for everything else in life, everything else. So yeah, we have to just, please, let's try and like map these lessons into everything else, because that's where the true value in this is, right? Um, and that's why I love being a part of the space. That's why I love the people that I'm surrounded by, in terms of Ephraim, and everybody else who I sort of resonate with in terms of why we think this is such a powerful skill. And yeah, it's just cool. It's just cool, and yeah, that's all I wanted to say. So this was a weird stream. uh, I don't even know. I think hopefully you guys found that interesting. I put the comments off because I just wanted to just talk off the cuff without any interruptions. I am actually quite tired, to be honest. I obviously I went for that walk and I got back and I was still cold and my jaw still kind of feels locked. So it even felt hard to pronounce words with this live stream. But either way, I just felt compelled to do it. I just had to do it. I couldn't have gone to sleep if I didn't talk about this stuff. So there you go. But yeah, that's it. I guess the only thing to say before I dip off and go to bed is for February, I will be doing a live stream every single day. So February is my birthday month, and as part of that, I want to challenge myself to do a live stream every single day. And so I'll be doing that. So if you guys have any like topics you want to talk about, just drop them in the comments of this video, um, or any other video, and I'll try and talk about it from my perspective. Otherwise, I'll have my own topics to talk about. But yeah, I'll be dropping a video every day. I think that'll be really valuable. It'll also keep me on my toes in terms of creating content. Um, and yeah, I can't wait for it. But yeah, like I said, if you want to explore the world, your old self has to die. And on that note, take care.